Am I the asshole for telling my wife she needs to go to therapy to become the mom our kids deserve? My wife had a crappy childhood. Her mom wasn't great, in and out of prison. She had to raise her little siblings. So with our own kids, I know she overcompensates so our girls can have the childhood she didn't. The issue is, she can't see that our daughters might not want the same things as she did as a kid. She put them in dance and one loves it, the other hates it, but my wife made her do it until COVID hit and the studio closed. When I tried to talk her down, she said that she'd learn to love it. Our oldest, 6, has severe anxiety. She's actually in therapy for it. As a result, she hates crowds. We had her birthday last January and she spent it huddled in a corner and cried through, "Happy birthday," after begging my wife not to make people sing. My wife shrugged it off and said it's part of the experience. This year we can't do a big party for obvious reasons, but my wife wanted to do a thing where everyone drove up to say hi, decorated their cars and sang. Oldest said no. When my wife tried to push, my daughter said she won't leave her room if they come over. My wife was upset and hurt. She told me she wants to give them the childhood she didn't have. I said that's nice, but our girls do have a childhood. They're not raising each other, neither of us are in prison and we're stable. I said that she needs to let them have the childhood they want. That includes activities, toys. Our youngest is a tomboy and that's lead to issues, what they wear, etc. She started arguing and I said she does all of this for herself, not them. I clarified she's not her mom, but she's not being a great one by doing this and told her she needs therapy to be the mom they deserve. Now my wife isn't talking to me. I wonder if I overstepped. Am I the asshole? Not the asshole. Her mom was the reason your wife and her siblings didn't have a great childhood, but she seems like she's overbearing, which can be just as negative. You're not overstepping. Those are your kids too and you do have a say in their upbringing. She needs to work through her trauma before her kids get older and want nothing to do with her. Not the asshole. I'm gently going to say your wife is probably not trying to be callous or hurtful to your children because she's overcompensating for her poor childhood growing up with her own ideas of what happy and normal looks like. But let me be clear, she is being those things in her efforts. She is hurting them by not letting them have choice. I applaud you for recognizing this and I hope you can persuade her to do therapy or even offer to do it with her to help her not feel further alienated. I hope it all works out. Best of luck, sir. I'm editing to also clarify that overcompensation is not necessarily a good implication. It can have negative overtones in her aggressive willfulness to push her lost and foregone childhood onto her children. Not the asshole. Your wife is trying to live a part of life she missed out on vicariously through your children and that's really unhealthy for them. They aren't her and just because she would have loved these things at their age doesn't mean they do. Her inability to separate herself from them and see them as becoming their own people is something she needs to work through and, based on her current status, therapy probably wouldn't hurt. Not the asshole. I do think you could have approached it better. Calling her not a great mom will make a lot of people shut down, but this is a conversation that needs to happen. The kids will resent her as they get older and will distance themselves from her because she disregards their feelings. The one that hates dance will always remind mom how much she hated dance. The one with anxiety might want to stop celebrating birthdays because of what mom does. It's going to be difficult, very difficult, but you need to find a way to fix this before she wonders why her daughters don't want to spend time with her. Your wife sounds like my mom. She grew up poor and tried to do the things for me that she didn't get to do, but like your wife she chose specific things that she wanted rather than asking me what I wanted, which is all the difference in the world. It sounds like she's also massively insensitive to your older daughter's anxiety, which also needs to be treated. You have a good handle on this situation and your wife needs therapy so she can get refocused here and be her best self and the great parent she can be, if she addresses this before it goes further. Not the asshole. If what she is doing is so good. Why is her daughter crying and miserable, isolates herself and is forced to do things she hates, thinks her mother is a bully for forcing her, doesn't trust her mom and feels unheard, unimportant when her pleas are dismissed? She is doing the same things to her children that her own mother did to her, just uses a different approach to give them a miserable childhood. Not the asshole. Your wife is being just as bad by forcing her dreams, wishes for her childhood onto the kids as her mom was for denying her. Your wife does need therapy. You probably also need couples therapy since this is causing probably pretty gigantic fights. But stand your ground, op. You're 50% responsible for that child, too. If the daughter hates dance, put your foot down. Sincerely, the daughter forced into dance classes who still resents it 20+ years later. Not the asshole. She's overcorrecting from what she went through, and even though she has good intentions, it's not fair to hold your kids to that standard. They're individuals in a different situation and she can't compare them to herself. Not the asshole. Honestly, it doesn't sound like she's giving them the childhood she missed out on but more vicariously living through them. Difference being she's forcing things they vocally don't want. And as harsh as it sounds, she isn't being a good parent but forcing her wishes on them. Your wife's mother was bad in one way and your wife seems so determined to avoid that she's becoming a bad parent in the opposite direction. Hopefully you can all seek out therapy and resolve the issue, but your wife definitely needs to cop on and listen to your children. Not the asshole at all. She does need therapy to understand her childhood is very different from theirs. But I'm an honest believer in therapy for everyone to reconcile their past. Lol. Sounds like your communication is good with you both. Maybe you could do some light explaining to your kids about why mom does the things she does. Not the asshole. You said what needed to be said. It had to be hard for her to hear, but she does need to change her ways drastically for the sake of her relationship with her kids. She sees how giving them the childhood she never had is affecting her kids and doesn't care. I think calling her apathetic might be too extreme, but not by much. Not the asshole 100%. Your wife is forcing the life she wishes she had onto your daughters, and this may lead to your kids going low contact with her, and by extension you when they get older. Not the asshole. You are absolutely right. Please stand your ground and stand up for your kids. Your wife won't like it but she does need therapy. Every kid is different and she needs to realize it. She may has good intentions but in the end she hurt them one way or another by disrespecting the kid's individuality. Maybe suggest family therapy. She needs to hear what the kids are really saying and needs to learn to respect their boundaries. This is hugely dependent on how you've approached the situation. Is this the first time you've had this conversation before just telling her to go to therapy? Therapy isn't going to make all of your wife's issues go away. You need to be prepared to be fully supportive and empathetic toward her too if you really care about her trauma. A lot of people want to have the picture-perfect moments they envision their whole lives. Kids, wedding day, you name it. The problem is that, by and large, those idealized versions of events are just that, ideals. You can try, but you can't control those around you to correspond with your hopes. And that trying often leads to reactions like your kids are having. Not the asshole. I know your wife means well. Meaning well doesn't negate the effects of what she is doing. Kids are humans, not props in a fantasy. Not the asshole. It surely was a difficult conversation to have, but you should be proud of yourself for putting your kids' needs first instead of avoiding confrontation. As for being neglected, being pressured as a child can lead to a lot of issues later in life, so I really think therapy would benefit your family in the long run. Please do and regular you're at it go to your own therapy because there will be things you need to unlearn too. How to raise an emotionally healthy child, Gottman. Not the asshole, protect your kids. Not the asshole. Perhaps you are doing her a favor. She really can ruin her relationship with her children as she continues to push her own dreams and desires onto them. Give her time to cool down and then talk to her again. Ask her why it's so important to her that her children should experience the childhood she wanted, and not the childhood they want. Not the asshole. I'm going to say it point blank. If your wife is acting like she cares more about vicariously living her ideal childhood through the kids than she does about the actual children, she's being a bad mom. If she really wants to be a good mom and give these kids the childhood they deserve, she needs therapy. Not the asshole. I'm gonna say your wife probably isn't trying to hurt your children and you know that. You were definitely not overstepping or an asshole for protecting your daughters. An idea I thought that could be sweet. Does your wife ever talk about all the things she missed as a child? Maybe for her next birthday, throw her the birthday party she always wished she had, and do a bunch of activities that she wished she had done as a kid and get your daughters involved as an extra treat. It won't solve it, but it might make her feel heard. Nah, her intentions seem pure and I think you're absolutely right, but although your slightly harsh words are warranted, I think they're unlikely to get across. She has to understand her values aren't universal before she can recognize the issue, and that's something most adults never understand. Deep down, the fact that it's her children makes it much harder to accept. Not the asshole, but I do want to say that, even if you felt you were soft in your wording and really do just want the best for your family, stuff like that is incredibly hard to take in. I don't disagree with what you said, nor do I think you shouldn't have said it, but the "not being a great mom" comment probably stung her bad. Maybe giving her some space is good for now and bringing up the topic gently later on would help her. Not the asshole. I also had a very shitty childhood. It was filled with abuse and I'm still on therapy for complex PTSD. I still wouldn't try to push things on my kids, because they're their own human beings. I will try to give them the childhood I didn't have, but making them do things I missed as a kid is projection at best and distancing from the kids at worst. Therapy helped a lot. Don't back down, this is important for your kids. Not the asshole. She didn't get the childhood she wanted because of her mom. Now, your kids aren't getting the childhood they want because of their mom. Time to break the cycle. Not the asshole, but maybe you could have suggested family therapy, instead. That way it doesn't single her out, and it shows that you are willing to work on this as a unit. Nah, most of the time Reddit is too quick on the therapy trigger, but in your case it seems talk therapy is exactly what your wife needs. She is also not the asshole because if her intentions are what you say they are, she is trying to give the kids an awesome childhood without any prior experience. Give her a few days to cool off and bring it up again. If it goes poorly again, maybe you can seek out a therapist's advice or even look into couples counseling to address this hurdle together. Maybe it'll only take a few sessions, or maybe your wife decides regular therapy is helpful for her mental health, but I do hope she is able to take a step forward. It would be a shame if the kids started resenting her as they grow up. Not the asshole. A lot of child abuse victims think it will be okay if they just do the opposite of what their childhood is like. I did this for years and I didn't have kids to hurt. She definitely needs therapy for her PTSD, CPTSD. Not the asshole. I wish someone had said that to my mom. Not the asshole. It's a hard conversation you've had, but it's in your kid's best interest. Well done. Not the asshole. She needed to hear this from you. Not the asshole. Her children are gonna end up reflecting on their poor childhoods because their mother is being way too much. Not the asshole. She needs to come to terms with missing out on the childhood she wanted, instead of forcing that idea onto her children. Not the asshole. This might have been harsh, but you weren't wrong. I wish you and your family the best. Not the asshole. By the sounds of it, if she continues trying to live her childhood again through her daughters, at least one is going to grow up hating her. She is so determined for them to live the life she wanted, that she is blind to the fact she's likely a serious source of anxiety to one, which in a way is basically abuse. Your kids are safe, cared for and happy, but they're not happy the way your wife wants them to be happy. She didn't get a childhood, so she's getting one now, through them, whether they like it or not. I can only imagine that her heart is in the right place. She just doesn't know how to navigate this. Especially for survivors or neglect and other forms of abuse, when it comes to raising your own kids, there's definitely a blurry line between living vicariously through your children, and giving your children a good life. I think your wording may have been problematic, but I still think you're not the asshole. Breaking the cycle of abuse without overcorrecting is difficult, and you're right, therapy is a great way of figuring out how to be a better parent. She should also be in therapy for herself, not to be a better mother and wife, but to be better for herself. Not the asshole. She's completely disregarding everything that makes them, well, them. She's doing them no favors and is not being some great parent by forcing them to do things they don't want. It's plain common sense. She definitely needs therapy because she's borderline delusional. She's giving her own kids a different brand of problem than she had when she was a kid. But a bad parent is still a bad parent. She's just a different type of one than hers were. NTA I came from this exact situation. My mom had an awful childhood and tried to give me the childhood she didn't. I'm nothing like my mother. She worsened my anxiety and tracked my social skills backward. I was a miserable child. I hope your wife wises up before she ruins the relationship she has. Not the asshole. Not the asshole. I have this issue with my dad. He is amazing and loving but way too overbearing because he lacked that affection from his dad. We have issues now because he can't understand I don't want to be around him 24/7 and has neglected certain issues where I really needed his support. Things are better than they used to be, but this wouldn't be as much of a problem if he wasn't trying to give me what he wanted as a child and listened and paid attention to my personal needs. The sooner your wife fixes this, the more likely she is to have a good relationship with her kids as they get older. If she continues like this, they could end up resenting her. Your wife is trying to heal her childhood wounds through your kids. That is not okay, and she is putting her needs ahead of theirs and in effect making them the parent. Please do whatever it takes to protect your kids. Do not sacrifice them to appease your wife, or you'll be doing the same thing as her. You can recommend therapy, but you can't control whether she goes. You ultimately only have control over what you do. Therapy can help you stand by your kids while not enabling their mom. Your daughter's anxiety stems from not being accepted by your wife. It's important that your daughter know that she is not the problem and there's nothing she needs to do to win her mother's love. Her mom is broken. Please get her therapy as well. Not the asshole went through something similar with my mom until she finally understood it wouldn't work with me. Not the asshole, but what you said was hurtful. It probably really needed to be said, but she's going to hurt for a while. Mothers are very sensitive and your wife has put a lot of effort into it. She needs to change, but it's going to take a while. And it's going to take a lot support and reassurance from you. You can't put the cat back in the bag, but now you have work to do. Love her. Support her. Be patient with her. Not the asshole. Maybe also have her enroll in the things she wanted to do as a kid? Dance lessons, trips, birthdays. Tell her to spoil her inner kid as well. Not the asshole. She's trying to live vicariously through your children, and that plain and simple isn't healthy. She needed to hear it. She needs to let her children find out what they like and not make them do what she thinks they should like, and in the meantime she is disregarding their personalities and trying to get them to be little mini-me, experiencing all that she didn't get to have. She really does need some therapy. And you had every right to say something. They are your children too. She needs to respect their boundaries and learn to listen to reason. Not the asshole. Not the asshole. It may not be the wake-up call she wanted, but she did need one. She's not valuing your daughter's needs and are forcing her own onto them, which can be just as bad as neglect if it is pushed to the extreme. Make sure to talk with your daughters and your wife. She should have been in therapy before having kids, most likely. My fiancé is finally seeing a therapist for a similar childhood to your wife before we have kids, in hopes that this situation doesn't happen. Not the asshole. Your wife sucks here for what she is putting your kids through. Hopefully she can turn it around. Not the asshole.